Rock is only dead in the sense that it is not the sound of 2018.
I love music, if you couldn't tell. The only thing I love more than music is talking about music, if you couldn't tell. I mean, Mountaintop 9 is one of my favorite YouTubers simply because of his downright infectious passion for the subject, and I've always had a soft spot in my heart for 10-second songs. He's got an obvious love for the medium, and his covers give you a real glimpse into the wide variety of musicians he listens to. It really showcases his talent and appreciation for the art form as a whole. But admittedly, this is the first time that I've ever heard 10-second songs actually turn down that mic of his and talk about music, and with a title like this, I gotta say I was intrigued, to say the least. So, without further ado, let's take a look at what Mr. Anthony Vincent, that's his name, really, has to say about why rock is dead and rap wins. Oh boy.
A few years ago, Gene Simmons, the lead singer of Kiss, made a statement that the rock community has not been able to stop talking about since.
So we started the video off with a couple of Gene Simmons quotes from about, how long has it been now? Like 4 years? Like, that's pretty much old news, isn't it? Like, is anybody still talking about this? I'm sorry, this is a minor issue, I know, but it just strikes me as an utterly bizarre basis with which to build this discussion upon. I mean, you go on to claim that this is like the catalyst for why people are so split on the issue of what rock and roll is really all about, and maybe I'm just not in the right circles or something? But it seems to me people kind of stopped talking about this thing a long time ago. The only place I hear people talking about rock revivals nowadays are in the comment sections of Struts and Greta Van Fleet videos, and those people don't mention anything about what Gene Simmons said back in 2014. If anybody did use those quotes as a talking point, however, I myself would just dismiss it because it's a bit of an argument from authority fallacy anyway. It just makes them sound kind of desperate. But I guess that's just me. We're off to a great start.
And he said, rock is finally dead. On a separate occasion, he expressed distaste for rap artists like Run DMC, Grandmaster Flash, NWA, and now Tupac for being inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, stating that they talk, they don't sing, and they don't play guitar, so it's not rock and roll. Therefore, they do not belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Whoa. Okay, hold on. So let me get this straight here, Anthony. You mean to tell me that you not only prefaced this video on 2 Gene Simmons quotes from 4 years ago, but that you also didn't even bother to get them right? Are you freaking serious, dude? Simmons never said anything about Tupac or NWA, at least not in the quotes that you're referencing, so why bring them up at all? A little disingenuous, don't you think? He also never expressed distaste for these artists. In fact, if you read the full quote, he makes it quite clear he's not saying anything about the quality of their music. Even when asked about his thoughts on the rap genre as a whole, Rolling Stone has Gene Simmons quoted as saying he thinks it's okay. His only gripe was that rap musicians were being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because he believes that rap isn't rock. Which it isn't. Also, in that article that you mentioned where Gene Simmons says that rock is finally dead, you missed the part in the actual subheading of the article that says it was murdered. The Kiss bassist blames file sharing for murdering rock and roll. Okay, so not only have we started with an incredibly weak premise for the conversation on why rock is dead, a couple of Gene Simmons quotes, consequently indulging in an argument from authority fallacy, but now you've also failed to properly quote the man in question. You know, the guy whose name you decided to open the freaking video with? Holy crap, this is gonna be a long 9 minutes.
Now, these are 2 sentiments that have people split right down the middle. On one hand, you have rock fans who think that rock music is on the verge of a major comeback. On the other hand, you have music fans who share the belief that rock and roll is more of a feeling, a spirit, if you will.
I like how he just sort of unconsciously excluded rock fans from being music fans. Did anyone else catch that? Like, there are rock fans, and then there are music fans. I'm sorry, I thought I liked music. I guess not, because Anthony Vincent said so.
To me, rock is about attitude and rebellion and acting in opposition to the status quo. Rock is obnoxious, it's loud, it questions authority, it isn't proper, it's not supposed to be in tune all the time, it's plug and play, piss your parents off, and most of all, it's young.
Okay, so you're wrong. Well, not wrong exactly, you're just being kind of tricky with your words here. What you've basically done is you've opened your discussion about rock by talking genres, which is totally valid. In fact, I would actually prefer it if the discussion would continue along this line of thinking. But now you're changing the game by defining genres through your own personal definition of how the music makes you feel, or moreover, how you feel about the music. You've taken a genre that is clearly defined by its tangibly identifying features of drum work and guitar play, and you've instead decided to deliberately label it as something like a spirit or a feeling rather than a legitimate style of music. The problem with doing this is that your argument becomes completely subjective, and while I agree music is an art form and as such can be judged as a subjective medium, discussions like the one Anthony's proposing here are best kept within the realm of objectivity, because an easy counter-argument that I could make here in response to Anthony's definition of rock music would be I believe rock and roll is very much alive, because I believe the spirit of rock and roll is about the style and the fashion, not the rebellion or the attitude. I would cite Black Veil Brides and compare them to Kiss, whom Anthony appears to hold in a high enough regard to respond to the Gene Simmons argument directly, and then I would say rock and roll isn't dead. Just look at Black Veil Brides. They're keeping the style of rock and roll alive, whether or not they actually sound like a rock band. Something else I could do is I could just very easily turn this same logic back around on Anthony, and whatever arbitrary trait I've decided defines rock and roll for a genre as it pertains to me, I could turn it back around on Anthony and say, and because it's about the style or the fashion or whatever I decided, it can't apply to rap music. Because see, that's where he's taking this argument. Make no mistake about it. He's going to try and say that rap music is the new rock and roll. He's going to try and say that, but the problem is that his entire argument is based upon this subjective premise of what rock and roll means to him. And do you see why that's a problem? Because now we can't even have a proper conversation, because you've got your definition and I've got mine. We can't even talk about rock music with each other because you'll be talking about your feelings and I'm going to be talking about what kind of leather those pants are made out of. So for the remainder of this video, I'm going to try my best to keep us sticking to the musical definition of rock and roll, how it sounds, not how a group dresses or their freaking attitude. Are we clear on that? All right, good. Let's move on.
Oh, so great. That means we're safe. Greta Van Fleet is young. They're going to bring back rock, and all's well with the world.
So anyway, Anthony ends up going off on a tangent here about Greta Van Fleet, how people are calling them the new Led Zeppelin. I have rewatched this video several times now, and I honestly still don't get what the point of this part is, aside from maybe how he's trying to strawman people who like to hear that classic rock sound coming out of a modern band. He's saying people are like putting them up on a pedestal because they're looking for somebody to save rock and roll. Like, okay? I mean, it's not like rock music stopped existing after the 90s, you know. I mean, Guns N' Roses did technically put out an album in 2008, Chinese Democracy. It's actually pretty good. AC/DC's still a thing. Motorhead never stopped jamming. Does My Chemical Romance just not register on anybody's radar as a rock band or something? I don't know, man. It just seems like a really weird argument to go after. Mostly because I really don't believe anyone's making that argument in good faith. Like, I mean, I get going after some rando in your comments section, toss a couple paragraphs at him just to see how quickly his ideas fall under scrutiny. But, like, to make an entire video going after the people that say, oh, rock is dead, man, we haven't had good rock since the 90s, it seems like, why would you waste your time making a video about something like that? Like, come on, dude, for real? You're going to waste my time with bogus arguments like this?
And here's the thing. There's no need to worry because rock music is out there. There's good rock music out there. There's great bands. Greta Van Fleet is one of them.
And again, it's confusing because if you notice, he switched back to the musical definition of rock. Not what he said it was previously, making this very difficult to try and follow what he's saying here. I mean, he talks about Nothing More for a bit, which, again, he's talking genre now. I'm down with that.
One of my favorite modern rock bands, though, is Nothing More. I'm going to tell you why. Because they sound like they belong in the year 2018. It's a fresh sound.
But the point he makes isn't even relevant, because he goes on to refute it by saying that rock music is
the party of your choice, the party you want to go to.
So why did you bring up either of those bands? What was the point of that? Presumably, let's just say that you're one of the mindless sheep that was just nodding along to whatever he was saying in the video. Then we already agreed and established that rock music is a feeling, not a sound, right? So why did he decide to waste half the freaking video talking about legit rock bands before circling back to, but it's a feeling, man. Like what?
Rock is only dead in the sense that it is not the sound of 2018. If you really wanted rock to compete and turn some heads again, you're going to have to do some things differently. Number one, you're going to have to put more aggression and more feeling in every riff you play. You're going to have to turn it up to 11. You're going to have to put less emphasis on tone and making things sound clean and perfect, and more emphasis on aggression and f***ing madness.
Back to talking about music. Anthony basically says if rock wants to make a comeback, just ignoring the fact that he just got through saying rock is a feeling and not a genre, it has to be more aggressive. Have less emphasis on tone, less emphasis on perfection, whatever that means. He brings up Kurt Cobain's vocal performance on Territorial Pissings, which is fine, rad, I love Kurt Cobain. But his point is that the song gave him chills.
Every time I listen to it, the hairs on my skin stand up. How many times have you told someone, oh, I don't like that song, but for some reason, like, why am I getting chills? Why? I don't like this song, but I got chills. Why? It's because you're listening to something real.
That it's something real, right? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. How do you define what is real when your entire argument is subjective? Riddle me this, Vincent. Subjectivity, by its very nature, hinges on one's own perception of a medium. You cannot... We can't even agree on a definition of what rock music is. How are we going to agree on a definition of what's real, on what gives you chills, what aggression sounds like? You know, like Ariana Grande's vocals give me chills, make my hair stand on end. Is she a rock musician? That new Linkin Park album, would you call that a rock album? Damon Albarn, a rock musician? Maybe. Anthony doesn't know. He can't say. It's all up to interpretation. And that's about where his video ends. I know it looks like I cut a lot out, but if you actually sit down and watch the video yourself, you're going to realize there's just a lot of nonsense jammed in there that just holds no relevance to the topic of the video. We never really got a solid answer on why rock is dead. We didn't get any form of an argument for why rap wins, besides like a very vague allusion to the fact that the spirit of rock and roll may in fact inhabit rap music, but we didn't really explore that, which to be honest would have been kind of interesting. I'm a little disappointed about that. This entire video is just filled to the brim with this wishy-washy babble, and I honestly feel like I've been clickbaited, and I can't tell if that was the intention or not. I genuinely can't. The fact that this video has 500,000 views and over 26,000 likes right now is really just mind-boggling to me, because it's just such a nonsensical video. Like, how can you even agree with what he's saying? He contradicts himself more than several times over. Like, I get people agreeing with the sentiment, right? Like, music is an art form. It makes sense that there's going to be people that are, you know, turned on to this really, you know, artsy, spiritual, like, rock is a feeling, man, sort of thing. And I'm totally down with subjective arguments. I love Mountaintop Nine's videos, and I'd say like 90% of the stuff that comes out of that guy's mouth is totally just his opinion.
I'm going to Hollywood, man. This hair, it's gonna get me paid and laid.
But when we're talking about genres, there is a quantifiable like element there. You can measure it, right? Like metal, there's a hardness to metal. There's something with the guitars, right? Rock and roll that, like, look, I'm no musician, so I'm not going to be able to name every instrument that goes into every genre of music. Like ska, there's a lot of horns, right? But you get what I'm saying. There's like, you can measure it. You can tell what a genre is. Rock and roll has a distinct sound. Metal has a distinct sound. Pop has a distinct sound. You can't just say it's just a feeling, man. And then on top of that, try and claim that it's dead and that rap somehow wins without providing any form of argumentation to support those claims. Like, let me put it to you this way. I mean, look at these two paintings here, right? One is a surrealist painting, one is a demonstration of cubism. Now, if I were to say, right, this is a surrealist painting we got going on right here, but I think it embodies the spirit of cubism, so it's a cubist painting. Thank you for that, Kat. I ask you, for anyone who agrees with that sentiment that something can embody the spirit of another thing and therefore it takes on the characteristics of that thing, would you say then that it's valid for me to call this a cubist painting, or would you say, well, no, that's different? To sum it up, I'm disappointed in 10-second songs here. I was really expecting something a little more insightful than whatever this was. I guess to conclude this video, I would answer the question myself because it wasn't really answered in the video that we got. Is rock dead? I would say no, it's not really possible to kill a genre unless the genre is like politically motivated, right? Like you could make a pretty solid argument, I think, nowadays for why punk is kind of dying. But rock isn't dead. Rap doesn't win because rap is completely irreverent of whatever's going on in the rock and roll world. Rap is doing its own thing. Genres are completely irreverent of each other, right? They're totally just these individual entities that exist without each other. Rap doesn't win, right? They don't fight. Unless maybe we're talking like, I don't know, crossover bands.
First, no sequel to the math, no equal. John with no yoke, more power, less people. And no, I'm not afraid of that. Print it in your paperback. Every rap is made back to axis of the late attack. Every phrase a razor blade is sated till they play it back. Slay them, leave them laying on a paper bag, faded black. And the wastelands of today, where there's nothing left to lose, and there's nothing more to take. But you force yourself to choose. In the wastelands of today, where tomorrow disappears, when the future slips away, and your heart turns into fear.
You know, like Ariana Grande. I mean, I should have thought out what I was going to say first.